What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Burning Hammer podcast. And this is another interview edition. And this week on the podcast, we have none other than the current number one contender for
That's
the
right.
Dog Championship, Marvelous. Marvelous, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really, really appreciate it.
Hey man, like everybody always says when they come on here, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So pleasure to be here, man. What's up, boys?
Yeah, man. Oh, I wanted to say this all for it before we even ask any questions or anything like that. At our very first dog show that we went to, we weren't doing commentary or anything like that. Um,
Mm.
you were somebody who immediately you stuck out to us immediately. We left that show and we both said Marvelous was a guy that we really really enjoyed, and you really stuck out to us from the first time we saw you wrestle in a match. So we
Thanks.
mean it when we say we're excited to have you on and learn a bit more about you, and we really have loved being able to watch your work so far, and are excited to be able to continue to do so. So
Oh man, I appreciate that. Thank you, man. It means that all the hard work is paying off. It's getting somebody's attention. So
yeah,
really
man,
appreciate that.
absolutely. And it's like for guys like us who just want to like be involved in this business any way that
Mhm.
we can, you know what I mean? And commentary and stuff like that's the dream. It's like we don't none of that is possible without people like you putting your body on the line and stuff like that, and we appreciate it immensely, man. So just we would like to start off with that. Um and I know Mark's got a question lined up for you to just kind of get right into this thing.
Yeah. So, first of all, what made you want to get into professional wrestling?
To be completely honest with you, wrestling has always just been in my life. My parents always watched it, which is always on. My grandparents watched it. Which is cool because back then it was a little bit different where you had WCW and of course you had WWF at the time. And my grandparents would watch WCW. My mom grew up on WCW while my dad grew up on Puerto Rican wrestling, but also WWF when he came out here to New York, New Jersey. So it's just been around, man. It's just been around, just something I had to do.
So, were you growing up with that bit of a divide? Were you more WCW or WWF fan?
Especially being a kid in the early '90s, it was definitely WWF. I mean, of course, they had
Okay.
that time period where everything's a little hokey, but that stuff that intrigued me because that was like bright colors, where WCW was starting to get darker. Even
Mm.
though I do remember watching like Hulk Hogan getting chased by like the Legion of Doom, or not the Legion of Doom, the Five Faces of Doom. I forgot their name. It was Kevin Sullivan. It's Kevin Sullivan, and it had like a Yeti and stuff like that. I'm just like, this is ridiculous. So I always like always like WWE.
Was there a specific time or moment that you remember going to or experiencing your first wrestling match or your first wrestling event outside of WWE or something like that? Like your first indie event when you realize, oh wow, like WWE isn't the only kind of thing with this, and this is something that I can get into, locally and stuff like that.
Right. I used to when I was really young. There was a local show out here that brought out Tito Santana and like Coco Beware and Doink the Clown. So I went to one of those shows, and I mean, it was packed. I mean, Independence was good back in the day. It was definitely a hot crowd, and I got to meet the wrestlers and stuff like that. I got to be real close, and then eventually, as I got older, there was a local promotion around where I live at, and I started going to their shows. And I just every day, just like I mean, every Saturday, I would just go there, and I'm just like, I think I could do this. I'm athletic enough. I have a fighting background, and I just kept going every Saturday, every Saturday, every Saturday. Finally, I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead. Let me go pursue this. Let me sign up. And they told me they weren't taking anybody because they were closing down. So,
Mm.
I mean, it's all for a reason, And I didn't. Eventually, I signed up a year later. So it all happens for a reason.
Absolutely, and you trained at Monster Factory, correct?
Yep, that's where I started at. That's where I'm currently at. Just currently won with my tag partner, God of Dabod, the Monster Factory Tag Team Champions for the third time. So
Wow.
we did that this past Saturday, defeating Getty and Max. So I can't wait to see what this run has for us. It's our third shot at the Monster Factory Tag Team Champions. The fans love us. I love being there. I've been there for already 8 years. So it's definitely my that's yeah, I'm a Monster Factory guy.
Yeah, love to see that, man. And I love dad bod and your guys' work as the body snatchers. Definitely people, if uh you're not familiar with Marvelous's tag team work with the God of Dad Bod, definitely check that out as well. uh
Definitely snatch
what
him up.
Yeah, yeah. So once you started training, once you finally, whatever, put your deposit down or whatever, bought the shoes or whatever it was that really was the step that you were like, all right, no going back now. Was there anything that you know, try that maybe dissuaded you from uh staying on the path of this dream kind of? Was there anything where was there any time where you had any doubts? And if so, where how were you able to kind of overcome those?
All right, that's a great question. Nobody's ever asked me that. I'm glad you did, because if anybody's out there listening, and anybody that will be listening to this, I spent years in doubt, because when I was younger, I used to do mixed martial arts, and I was doing that for years. And then after a while too, I got tired of like the consistent fighting and doing competitions and things like that, because I was doing it since I was 3. And I also, I wouldn't want to say I was forced into MMA, which is more that my dad always had me in there, and I kind of wanted to do my own thing as I got older. So I started playing basketball, and that's how I got competitive like that, through basketball. And eventually, of course, as you get older, you don't make it to the NBA. You know, that's a 1 in a million chance. And I spent years just being, I guess you could call it, a normal person. I'll just wake up every day and go have a factory job, and just 10 hours, 16 hours a day, just there listening to wrestling podcasts consistently. And I would just hear like Jim Cornette, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Conan's podcast, all those guys. And finally, Austin had Danny Cage, who is the owner of the Monster Factory, and they're talking about the Monster Factory, and I'm just listening. And they're like, "Yeah, it's in New Jersey." I'm like, "New Jersey?" I'll go look it up. And it's like, "Oh, it's 40 minutes away." And like I said, I spent years in doubts, where there was a couple times where I didn't think this dream was ever going to happen. But eventually, I just told myself, I'm like, "Hey, listen, one day you're gonna have kids. They're gonna look up to you, and they're probably gonna ask you, 'Hey, why didn't you just follow your dreams?'" And they always tell you growing up, follow your dreams. So I was like, fuck it, let me go ahead and let me try this. And when I went to go sign up for the Monster Factory, I went to an open house because, like I said, I heard it on the podcast. Danny Cage said he was having an open house just a week later. So I went to it. And I'm gonna be honest, I drove past the building maybe 4 or 5 times, not because I couldn't find it, but because I was nervous. Because I knew that there was no going back at all. Because like, why am I doing this? Why am I spending this amount of money on this? I'm not doing this as a hobby. This is something that time I look forward to as a career. Took very serious, and it was my next step, my next, I guess, avenue to get that competition, to get that spirit, just get it going again. And eventually, I went in there, and then I got in the ring, and he was going around in a circle after the open house, and he's like, "You're gonna sign up? You're gonna sign up? You're gonna sign up?" And I saw like 4 people say yes. And then I was like, sure, yes. And I was like, oops, what did I just do? Like that quick moment of like, because I felt the ring. I toe tapped the ring, and it was so hard. The wood floor, it's hard. And ever since then, I guess there was no looking back from there. And I just had to be there, and I've been there ever since then.
That's awesome.
Felt like that was long winded. I apologize.
No,
Oh,
no, that was perfect. It's funny you say the thing about the ring being hard, because I remember the first time that, like, because me and Dylan famously we bought a wrestling ring with like a bunch of friends. And I remember the first time like I stepped in there and I like took a bump, and I was just like, holy shit, this ring, like the mat is
Yeah,
really, really hard. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, it's like crazy. People don't realize how painful wrestling is. So how once you got in there, you said you're going to sign up. Now you're signed up for your training school. How difficult was the training process for you?
So for me, it was just more of just like kind of learning the routine and how the locker room and everything really goes. because I could just walk in there and do my thing, which is great. Yeah, but I also have to. So ultimately, just be a people person. That's what you do. You go into wrestling to make fans and stuff like that, but you don't go into wrestling just like walk in and be all quiet and be to yourself. That's not an issue, but especially in the beginning, you want to learn, what's going on around the building. You want to learn, who everyone is. You want to meet everybody, and then you want to go in there. You want to make sure that you're training and everything's on time. You're on time. You're wearing the right shirt. You're wearing the right shorts. You know, and mind you, when I first started, I'm walking in, and the first person I see is Damian Priest and Danny Cage, of course. And I'm just seeing everyone do all these like amazing athletic things, and I was just like, ugh. I'm like, okay, listen, I might be a high flyer, but I'm not a gymnast. I'm not gonna ricochet. I'm not gonna be Ricochet. I'll kick you and punch you in your face, square with precision with accuracy, but I cannot do like triple backflips or anything like that. And I'm seeing everybody do all this. I'm like, wow, this is hey, what can I do here to be different? And I didn't want to go in there being another short person. Hey, let's put a mask on him and call him a luchador. Or he's another short person and he's high flying. And I say short because everybody, ladies and gentlemen, I am 5'6", same height as Rey Mysterio. So, so anywho, I had to bust my ass. Seriously, I had to bust my ass to not only gain the respect of my peers, but to really prove to myself that I can do this. Because that was my first goal. My first goal was, can I do this? And that's where I'll leave it there at that point.
So, how long in the training process did it take you to realize that you can do this?
Maybe about 3 months in, because they feel like that sounds cocky when I say that, but no, about 3 months in, because after Damian Priest made me run the ropes 100 times over and over again. Because there's a skill to running the ropes. You just don't run them. It's not like you just go ahead and sprint down the street. No, there's a skill to running the ropes. Once I learned that, I learned how to move around the ring, and everything to me felt like ice, and it felt smooth. And that's when I'm like, oh, I could do this. Oh, I'm listening. Oh, I could do this. Oh, the bump. Okay, now it's not hurting too bad because I'm getting used to it because I'm training every single day. Repetition breeds habit. You must train if you're a professional wrestler. I know there's a lot of wrestlers out there that just sign up or go, actually, they don't sign up at all. They just sign up to Instagram and they say they're a professional wrestler and they get booked on these shows. And then, proof is in the pudding. You see their work and it's like, you know, please get yourself a quality training school. Repetition is everything. And I trained till 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes. And that paid off quickly for me because then eventually they started giving me opportunities and more opportunities where I was like, I didn't know I was ready for.
Mhm.
But every time they gave me a test, they gave me a challenge, I conquered that challenge. I took it and I ran with it and I made it even better. That's the whole point of this game, which is, making everything better wherever you leave, just make sure it's better. It's a better place. And that's one thing that I strive at the Monster Factory. I want to make sure when I leave there, it's better.
Great. That's a great answer. And kind of speaking on it kind of goes right off what you were just saying there. Is there anything in life that you've learned, or is there maybe a lesson that you've learned in life that has helped you with wrestling training, and then vice versa? Is there maybe a lesson you've learned in training that's ended up helping you in life?
Well, anyone that's in the business will tell you that wrestling is pretty much life. And I don't mean it as in like 24/7, it's got to be WWE or whatever. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about wrestling out. I'm just saying it's exactly like wrestling. You have struggles. That's the definition of wrestling, is struggle, right? In life there's struggles. I've learned how my discipline and my motivation comes from my experiences in life, my ups and downs. Not everything's gonna work out. Remember I told you earlier, I went to go sign up and the school was closing down. It wasn't meant to be. At the time I was upset, but then I realized, you know what? There's something better. You know what I mean? Because I now imagine if I actually did sign up for that place and then a month later they closed down. Well, yeah, I'm a trained wrestler, but really I'm only a month in and I have no home. And everything happens for a reason. And that's just my motivation. It's just my literally my life experience. And now I can't get I can't have nobody tell me no. I have to keep going and keep going and keep going because when I was younger, everybody used to always tell me no. I go to amusement park, you're too short, or just whatever it is, which is always like a no, and that just lit a fire in me, and I'm very competitive. I could prove, like, you tell me I can't do something, I want to prove you wrong. You should just see me at my regular shoot job. For no reason, I had to outwork everybody. It's just because I'm built like that now. I had to because at one point, I spent years doubting myself, and I was unmotivated. And I would never go back to that again.
So, take us through the process, right? You sign up for a school, you're training, you're starting to feel like this is something you can actually do as you start to prepare for potentially your first match ever. What was it like with finding your wrestling gear and wrestling attire? Because I know, going back to what Dylan said, how much you blew us away at the first dog event. One of the things that I noticed was your wrestling gear. I believe it was like all white with like gold hints of wrestling gear. And so what was the process of finding that like for someone who's just starting out in the business?
Um, just looking around, also too being nosy on Instagram, seeing who makes gear, who doesn't. Right now I have one person who makes my gear, but when I first started, I actually had this lady who would make my gear, and actually she made really really nice gear, but she made more women's clothing, so she actually took a shot on me and was like, yeah, I could try the men's tights and stuff like that. And she made two of my sets of gear. Costs a lot of money. Gear is not cheap, especially if you want good quality gear. If you want to be a star in this business, everybody, look like a star, spend some money. It will go a long way. It might hurt, but it'll go a long way in the end. Because you will get opportunities even just based on how your gear is, like how your gear looks. Nobody wants to put anybody on TV with crappy gear. So that process at first was, like I said, hard, and then eventually I found this other person. I'm gonna give him a shout out. His name's Break Knight. He does a lot of amazing gear for a lot of wrestlers on TV and then on the independents. And I've always been a person that I like to just get dressed. I just like to be quote unquote fresh, swagged out, like the kids used to say. And I just always want to stand out, as much as I can. So especially in the beginning, I was like, how can I be as like sparkly as possible? So I was like, let me just wear white with glitter, whatever. So I have different sets like that too. So that's how that process went.
Very cool. Very cool. Would you? I remember you a little bit ago. You were kind of saying that early on into your training process, maybe like 3 months in. I don't know exactly what the time was, but you started getting opportunities that you said you didn't even realize that you may have quite been ready for yet. So like, how far into training did you end up having your first match? And what were the emotions like? That feeling like going into your first match, like, wow, I'm about to have my very first professional wrestling match.
And to be clear, it's not a first training match. It is a first professional match on a show, right?
You could tell whatever satisfied your heart, I would say. Whatever.
No, I mean, look, I could tell the two really long stories short. The first one, it was more of like, wow, like this just happened, but like it kind of reminded me of back in the day playing with my pillows
God,
on the
yeah.
set.
Yeah.
So I'll be calling spots or whatever,
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. So that was that. My first experience was kind of like that. It was just like, oh, I did this before. And then my first experience on the show, it was a squash match. Um, I lost to a team of Travis Jacobs and Royal Money. Um, Basically, it was in front of my parents. It was a slaughter. They they kicked my head off. They slammed me around a bunch of times. I got slammed maybe 17 times. Just
Wow.
because the fans want more time.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
And I'm the new guy, so of course I'm just getting
Yeah.
tossed around like a crash dummy. And then afterwards, I remember I got off and they gave me an ice pack, and I was just like, wow, like this adrenaline, like this high, like
Mhm.
hearing the crowd go, oh, because my head just got decapitated, you know. And at that moment, I'm like, yeah, this is what I was meant to do, because this is all I ever thought about was this moment, this reaction,
Yeah.
feeling it, and ugh, that's a bug, that's a high, that's something I can't explain.
So, what were your nerves like heading into before the bell even rang, heading into this match day of? Because you were talking about how nervous you were just to go to the open house for Monster Factory. So, what were your nerves like before the match and like day of and the hours and minutes leading up to it?
I remember just being really excited. I think I was more excited and so excited that I couldn't be nervous because I'm like young, like I'm in there like, oh, I get to do this, like, this is where now if I think about it more, depending the match, I will get nervous or so. But back then it was just all excitement, and then it was just more of like I was more nervous of messing up more than anything, pretty much. It's just because I didn't want to mess up my little spots, man. It was a squash match. I only had one or two things to do. If I can't do one or two things, I shouldn't be in the business. So, that's where my nerves kind of came from. So, but I even still to this day, depending on the match, I will get nervous.
Yeah, no,
What do
I
you think?
mean, you got to
What
think.
what
Oh, sorry, you go ahead, Mark.
what what makes you nervous for certain matches? Is it the opponent? Is it the environment?
It's well, if the environment's hot, first of all, I always want the environment to be hot. Um, my opponents depends. I mean, if I got a big time opponent, yeah, of course, I don't want to mess that up. It's just more of like I'm a perfectionist. I want everything to go well, and I get nervous when I know I can craft, or me and my opponent could like put together a really special match where I know like, all right, I'm going into this. This is about to be hot. Like this is really going to get the people going. And of course, you never know until you go out there. And then you got to make some adjustments. But I have a pretty good pulse on like what people will want, depending on the crowd. Because every crowd's different.
Hmm.
I get, man, it's crazy because I feel like I go really, really hard, especially like at the Monster Factory, because I have that platform to do that. Sometimes I go on these independent shows and they're only giving me 5 minutes to just have a match or whatever.
Hmm.
And maybe it's nothing on the card or it's nothing that's gonna advance a storyline. So I'm just having a match for the sake of having a match. But when there's a story involved and you give me 10 to 12 minutes to tell that story, hey, I'm gonna do my absolute best. And I'm not saying I'm not gonna do my absolute best when it's just 5 minutes, but I just know that I could craft something special that I will be proud of. That's just what it comes down to.
I'm curious to know if do you have a favorite match so far that you've had in your career, or a couple?
Man, I do got I can say I got a couple. Um, Singles wise, I had a lot of great matches with, I don't know if you heard of Daniel Alexander.
Hmm.
He's great, great, great professional wrestler. I literally just we had a blood feud. We feuded for months all the way to a ladder match, which at the time I was the holder of the middleweight medallion, and he beat me for it. But those matches really not only like for us like gave us motivation to continue to do this, but like really like set the tone for my career going forward.
Right.
And those are definitely one of my favorite matches. It's against him.
Amazing, awesome to hear. And I'm curious. That's your favorite match that you've had. Do you have a dream opponent? Is there? I'm sure there might be more than one, but could you give us maybe one dream opponent?
I do. But if I had to shoot for the stars here, I would definitely love to wrestle Rollins.
Yeah.
I think I definitely go toe to toe, and I could definitely do. And knowing him, like he is definitely just someone who's always could just go
Yeah.
and go and go and go. And I know that I could just go, so I want to see how we can mix it up in there too, man. His style is just it's incredible. I wish I could do half the stuff he does. But he is Rollins and I am Marvelous, and there's a reason why he is him and I am me. And I don't know. One day, let's hope. Let's hope. Even if it's just a squash match, I'll get cursed on for 2 seconds. Let's just do it. Sign me up.
I mean, I hear you. Rollins is. I mean, especially. I said a few years ago, I made the hard stamp. I was like, Rollins has made his mark as my favorite wrestler of all time at this point. So I put him at the top of my list a couple of years ago, just because. But I'm right there with you, man. He is so incredible at what he does, and I mean, you got one fan. I'm two fans right here that I'd be over the moon for Seth Rollins versus Marvelous.
Agreed.
And
Uh,
here's the thing now, like now,
love
like
to see it.
I especially before I signed for the business, I was a humongous Rollins fan, especially when he won Money in the Bank the first time.
Yeah.
But now, like I'm watching TV, I'm like, y'all competition. Like, well, that's what I wanted.
Yeah, man, that's what I mean, we saw Seth Rollins win his second Money in the Bank, but I could say like one thing that Seth Rollins he obviously puts so much thought into like his like ring gear and stuff
Yeah,
like that. So if there's any sort of inspiration taken from that, I could definitely see that a little bit there.
I think he's taking inspiration from me.
Mm,
Mm.
I think that's fair.
Okay. So you at the start of the show, you were telling us how you are the new Monster Factory Tag Team Champions. What is the one of the bigger differences? Obviously, it's you have a tag team partner, but what is like story wise during a match or pacing wise? Like, what's the biggest difference between a singles match and a tag team match, and how hard is one versus the other?
Well, tag team one's a little bit. I would say it's a little bit easier, but then it's hard at the same time because now you at least in a singles you can control one person. Now you got to control three people.
Mm.
And I only say it's easy because I can at least tag out and catch my breath. So where in the singles where I can't just tag out and catch my breath, it's constantly go and go and go. Singles are always more challenging. Again, it goes back to just me wanting things to be perfect. Um, then again, that tag team, it really depends on your opponents as well too, because my partner is 6'3", 320 pounds. I don't expect him to be moving like me, you know. So then, depending on who we wrestle, if that person is big, we just wrestle two big guys that are at least both 6'2", 6'3". So as you can see, I did what I could, but man, when I got that hot tag, he went in and he really cleared house. There's differences, so it's really challenging, but it's also fun putting things together because it's like, all right, what story can we tell today? We got two big guys, or we got another big man, little man team. How can we have fun with this? So
Yeah, absolutely. I gotta tell you, that's I mean, not just because of the difference in size between you two, between you and Dad Bod, and in your tag team, the Body Snatchers, but I can really tell just from watching you guys, and I've watched a lot of indie tag teams, so you could just tell how much thought you guys put into working together as a tag team and stuff like that. And I've really enjoyed watching you guys work together. Hasn't gone the thought you guys put into be a team and not just two singles wrestlers coming together. That doesn't go unnoticed. You guys are very much when you are wrestling together. You guys are the Body Snatchers,
yeah, for
and
sure.
that's very cool.
We're just having fun. We're ourselves. This is truly ourselves.
So, if someone has never seen you wrestle before, how would you describe your matches to them?
I would like to describe my matches as hard hitting, but also exciting and fun to watch. It's basically a roller coaster. Roller coaster gonna come to a stop and hit you pretty hard. And it's gonna keep going. That's me, man. That really is me.
Oh, so with this match coming up with Vinny the Fixer, right? I've been told, I want to confirm with you that this is your first main event singles championship opportunity in something like this. And is that true?
For a singles, yes.
Okay.
Especially for a
Or,
singles
yeah,
match.
that's what I wanted to make sure I
Yes, I've been in
clarified
tag team
there.
main events, but never just where it's just me and the champion's name on a marquee, headline. That's why I love to see it. Vinny the Fixer versus Marvelous. I mean, that's
Yeah.
freaking cool.
Yeah, man. And I mean, I'll tell you, we are over the moon. We're gonna both be on commentary for that as a team, and we are very excited for that to be. That's going to be our first event where we're both on the call as a team. So we're very excited for that to be our first main event that
Nice.
we get to call. And is there being that it's your your first main event opportunity for singles gold? are you doing anything differently to prepare? And how are you preparing for this match in a few weeks?
So it's been. Here's the thing. Every week I have to prepare for somebody new, and I still have three more opponents to prepare for before Vinny the Fixer coming up. So I'm definitely taking one opponent at a time, but that's not saying I'm not thinking about our match. That's not saying not thinking about him because I know what he brings to the table. I know the type of match that it's probably gonna be hard hitting. It's gonna hit me hard, and I'm ready for that. I'm ready to get hit hard. I'm ready to get slammed. There is definitely a size difference, but I definitely been studying him. And Vinny, man, it's an honor. It definitely is a pleasure to be in the main event with you, man. But I'm hungry. I'm hungry. This dog need to eat. I'm done being humble, brother. It's game on. It's game time. Can't wait.
So it's been no secret that the new dog champion, Vinny the Fixer, has, let's say, not won his matches on the cleanest side of things. You know, we've seen Roan After Hours at Geek Fest. He's had brass knuckles that
Mm.
he has used. So, how do you plan for someone who is willing to cheat his way to victory? How are you going to counter him potentially using brass knuckles or using some sort of other way to cheat to win?
Well, first of all, he's gotta be able to catch me. That's the thing. You gotta be able to catch me. And if you even try to swing at me, you gotta be able to try to hit my face. And that's gonna be hard. Or if you try to punch me in the stomach or punch me anywhere, I will dodge, slip, and weave through. So I definitely have to be prepared, but you never know what happens. You never know exactly in the ring. He could go ahead, he could rake me now, I could look away, and then he could grab his nuts, and then I won't be able to see him, and then he could hit me. There's many ways that he could cheat. All I could just try to do is just straight up just be patient. Not only just be patient, but see what he tries to throw at me. And even when he's behind my back, I gotta have eyes behind my back somehow, some way. So we'll see. Hopefully my spidey senses tingle.
Yeah, and with that, what is your message to the dog champion right now, Vinny the Fixer, as you go into your match with him on June 28th?
Message is simple: is that Vinny, this is my first main event, but I don't want you to think that I'm nervous. I don't want you to think that I'm coming in as humble. Like I said earlier, I am hungry. I need this. I need this to survive, and I need this to continue my career in professional wrestling. He's been around for a very long time. It's time for a new dog to take over. And on June 28th, Marvelous will walk out as the dog championship. Dog champion. I say championship. I can't be a belt.
I'll tell you what, as commentators, we usually like to stay unbiased, but I think we'd be lying if we said we weren't pulling for you a little bit here to get that title from Vinny the Fixer. Again, Marvelous will be taking on Vinny the Fixer for the Dog Championship June 28th at Sacred Heart Church in Riverton, New Jersey. We better see everybody out there. Marvelous, thank you again for joining us on this episode of the podcast. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, man. Thank you guys for having me. Body Snatcher out.